Hi, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Racing Angle with Logan Morris. This one titled Episode 2, Take 2. All right, well, there's a lot to get to and very little time to get to it. Hey, Freddie, how you doing, brother? You know what we're going to do? We're going to take a second. We're going to run that intro one more time. I'll be right back. All right. Hi, folks. How are you? Welcome into another edition of the Racing Angle. And look, we're lots to talk about, and we're going to get to it. Freddie, thanks for coming. We appreciate you so much, brother. Uh, yes, round two. Let's get ready to rumble. Indeed. Indeed, we will. Indeed, we will. Indeed, we are. And look, there's a lot to get to and a little time to do it. So let's do it. Let's hit that starting line and let's get after it. I look forward to it. So, all right. What's the first topic on the agenda today? The agenda is the IHRA. They completed their comeback season, but they made some big news yesterday on Competition Plus's Power Hour, right? They made some big news. They're going to run eighth mile next year, only eighth mile, every category, eighth mile. That is huge news, obviously. You know, it's a big deal, right? Only running the old 660. There's a lot of moving parts to it. A lot of people upset old school traditionalists. God knows I'm usually one of them. You know, the old fourth, the 1/4 mile is what everybody usually runs. You know, that's the way that Garlits did it back in the day. And so, you know, you know, you have to find a way to, you know, please everybody, please all the traditionalists, please every single entity out there, right? Because there's so many things for the IHRA to try to do to succeed. And how do you do that? You know, how do you you know they're not a new brand, but they're a rebranding brand that is they've been built, rebuilt, torn up, scrapped together, and they're starting over, right? And so that's one of those things where um, you know how do you please everybody? You can't please everybody. And so, but there's a great debate always among folks of, you know, the 1/4, the fourth mile and the eighth mile. There's always a great debate, right? You know, the old school way of doing it. NHRA does 1,000 feet these days. That is the way I think you should do it. But you know what? I'm not going to judge until I see it. I'm not gonna judge it until I really see it go out and experience it. We did 3 of those races this year. They were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun. They they have some big plans for the future. They want it to be more of a spectacle than just a drag racing event, and that is, that's what you need these days in a lot of ways because the attention spans ain't what they used to be. They're not what they used to be at all. And so because you're asking your audience to sit in the stands a whole hell of a lot. You're asking your audience to sit in the stands a whole hell of a lot, and it's tough for people these days with the kids and the whole deal. So that's a hard sell. That's a hard sell, boys. And so they're doing everything they can. There are some pluses to the 660, right? That's less parts, that's less breakage, that's quicker action. But is it too quick of action? Is it too quick? And um, it's a great question because you can make the argument that blink and you'll miss it. Blink and you'll absolutely miss it. And so I don't know. It's a great debate of the old school way versus a new school way. It cuts costs down, and that's what the IHRA is about, right? They're trying to be a cheaper alternative to the NHRA because everyone knows that in every motorsport, NASCAR, drag racing, IndyCar, the prices are high. The prices have gotten out of hand, and a lot of the old school ways of run what you run, and anybody can do it. That's going by the wayside, right? Gone are the days of it's a whole lot more boardrooms than it is, the old school twerking on the wrench. And so I just, I understand both sides of the great debate. I do. I really, really do. But again, it saves cost. It'll be quicker, yes, but it saves cost. It's going to give some people probably some more opportunities to win that maybe don't have the back half power as you get closer to the 1,000 foot, or if you're just doing the fourth mile. That's there's a lot of pluses to it. So I'm going to wait and see how it all feels, wait and see how it all goes. We shall see on all of that. They did just complete their comeback season. They did not really name a champion per se. I think it was more of to get their feet wet and see how this year went in 2026. I know they're currently planning to run 10 10 events, and we're hoping to cover a lot of them here at Racing Angle. Going to be a lot of fun. Dale Worsham continued dominating the funny car ranks. He defeated Robert Bode in the finals. He's had an incredible funny car season, folks. An incredible funny car season. Dale Worsham, of course, has done it all. He knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two, right? And so if you look at it and in totality, he's got the money, he's got the funding, and he's damn sure got the talent, and so he has absolutely dominated the funny car ranks for the IHRA's return. And I don't know. The great question is, will it be back next year? In terms of, I'm talking about drivers. The IHRA will be back next year. That is a pretty much foregone conclusion at this point. Um, because the owner Daryl Cattell has, believe me, he's got the money, he's got the funds, he's got more money than you and I know what to do with. you know, who's going to come back and compete? Will they get some? Will they get some NHRA guys to come and compete as they did? It'd be interesting. We saw names like Sean Reed and Jasmine Salinas give it a go. Obviously Terry Haddock came out and gave it a go. Uh, Dale Creasy Jr., longtime NHRA staple, but he's just a lifer of the sport, right? And so cheaper option for him. And you know what he did? He came on out and tried to compete with the IHRA. He's somebody that may love the 660. Maybe not. Maybe not. I haven't talked to him. I'd love to get a chance to ask him about it. Because again, it will be cheaper. It will be quicker. It will be less strenuous on the parts, less breakage. So again, you can make an argument for all these things. But they just complete their comeback season, and drag racing needs that alternative. I love the NHRA. I've really fallen in love with it over the last couple of years. They've been good to me when Peyton when we go cover races. Absolutely, they have. And so we have nothing against the IHRA, the NHRA. We love the sport. We love the sport. We want to see it succeed. And quite frankly, I think an alternative is good. You know, I'm a big wrestling guy, right? It's WWE and AEW. You know, not everyone's going to make it to the WWE. Some guys might not want to go to the WWE. They might want to go to AEW. They might want to go to the the alternative, the challenger product, as you would. And so alternatives are a good thing. I really believe that for the sport of drag racing, having two healthy sanctioning bodies is great. Now, how will everybody react to again going eighth mile? The traditionalist will be upset. That's the truth of it. Go through social media, go through the comments on people's pages. They're not happy about this announcement, but we haven't. Don't knock it till you try it. Number one, number two. Isn't the whole point of the IHRA to be a cheaper alternative for these less funded teams? For these teams trying to piece it together and still achieve the dream of being Funny Car and Top Fuel and Mountain Motor Pro Stock champions. I think so. I think that's the whole point. And so I get the traditionalists are going to be upset. I respect it. I respect your game. I know it ain't the way that Don Garlits did it. Ain't the way Shirley did it. It ain't the way that John Force has done it most of his incredible career. I get it. I know. But ain't nothing the way it used to be. You know, today is not yesterday, and tomorrow won't be today. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. Let's give the IHRA a fair shot, because they deserve that, and the sport of drag racing as a whole deserves that. Two healthy sanctioning bodies are a good thing. I really believe so. Now, what's the long term outlook? What's the long term outlook? You know, I don't. I don't know. Daryl Cattell has as much money as you could ever need to fund a project like this, 1,000%. Um, and so that is something to keep in mind. He can do it as long as he wants to do it. He can fund it as long as it takes, because it's going to take some time to turn a profit, right? It take brand building takes time. There's the old school thought of it takes a good 4 or 5 years to really get turning a profit. That's something to consider. It takes time, and so that they they have all the money you can possibly want, but do they have the patience? Do they have the time? Do they have all those sort of things? The early indications are the answers yes. The early indications are the answers yes. Obviously, we don't know what's to come, economically in these uncertain times. We'll see what happens in the future, but I think the IHRA is here to stay, and I think that's a good thing. Getting back to their weekend in North Carolina, Mountain Motor Pro Stock was something the IHRA is well known for. Chris Powers got it done, and look at that entry list. If you don't think that's a successful class for the IHRA, that entry list is lengthy. Every single race that Mountain Motor Pro Stock is in, they get people coming out. The Mountain Motor Pro Stock and the Pro Mod categories are full. Now, do they still have work to do on the nitro categories? Absolutely they do. And again, maybe that's part of what this going eighth mile is all about. But when it comes to Pro Mod and Mountain Motor Pro Stock, the two classes that probably the IHRA is best known for, certainly when it comes to Mountain Motor Pro Stock, those entry lists are full. And Chris Powers had an incredible season. Incredible season. I expect him back next year, and he'll be competing for an IHRA championship again. I don't believe they were crowning champions this year, because it was just kind of a get your feet wet, see how this all shakes out, and really hit the ground running in 2026. And I think they had a very successful 2025. One thing they had was they had Shirley Muldowney and, of course, Big Daddy himself, the Godfather, Don Garlits, were at every single race this year. kind of playing in the ambassador role for the IHRA. I wonder if that continues because how do you entice fans? How do you entice some traditionalists out there, right? Some NHRA diehards, some 1,000-foot diehards, some fourth mile diehards. Um, how do you entice the people that are loyal to the NHRA? I'm talking about the fans, the people, because that's what it's all about, right? It's all about putting a butt in a grandstand. That's you can look at numbers, you can look at classes, you can look at wins, you can look at losses. What it's all about, it's making sure the sport is healthy and having a butt every 18 inches or so. And so I think that's what Garlitz and Shirley Madani were there for. I think my guess, and I'm purely speculating here. I have nothing to report this on. I'm betting they'll be back next year to many of those races because uh, why not? People want the chance to come meet those two icons and see those two icons still be involved in the sport in any way they can. Don Garlitz is a wonderful, wonderful human being. Shirley Modani is the first lady of drag racing. You just don't get better than those two in terms of being able to draw some people, and they've been drawing people for 50 years. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And every time we would go see them, believe me, there were a line to get the autograph, to get the picture, to shake the hand of true drag racing royalty. Frankly, those two go beyond drag racing royalty. Their sports royalty as a whole. You know, pretty incredible stuff. I think they'll be back. Maybe they'll entice some other legends to come out and kind of be an ambassador for the IHRA. We'll see what happens. I'm sure that Daryl Cattell and the rest of the team have many things up their sleeve. This weekend, they had a Ferris wheel in North Carolina. They had a Ferris wheel. Michael Waltrip took a ride on it, if you haven't seen that on social media. And so they're doing a lot of cool things. They're trying to make it a spectacle. I heard there was some bull riding out there in North Carolina. Scott Woodruff said maybe they'll do midget wrestling. He said that on Competition Plus Power Hour. Maybe they'll have some midget wrestling out there, some micro wrestling, because he was saying it pretty facetiously, but he said he was a half serious because they're trying to do something to create spectacle. And overall, I think the first year for the IHRA's return was a success, and I think it did that. It got people talking, it got people paying attention, it gave people alternatives like Sean Reed, like Jasmine Salinas, who has been kind of stuck in drag racing purgatory, right? With funding issues and things of that nature. It gave some of those lifers like Dale Creasy Jr. Other opportunities to stomp on the gas, and so and most of all, it was big money payouts, and it gave people a brand new opportunity. So I look forward to 2026. We're planning on covering it. Peyton and I are. We're excited about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk some Hot Lap headlines. What's that include? That's going to be Trackhouse Racing has got some double plans for Connors Village down the line. Speaking of Trackhouse, they have changed numbers. They've done some shifting on that front. We have some Corey Day news to talk about. The Dingers running in the Rolex 24. NASCAR today announced the start times for all the races, and I got to tell you, it looks like they're begging for rain. A lot of late start times. We'll get into that and a whole lot more when we come right back here on the Racing Angle. I'm your host, Logan Morris. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Hi, everybody. We're back here on the Racing Angle. I'm your host, Logan Morris, Loganity, whatever's left of him. Before we move forward, I want to remind you hit that subscribe button if you'd be so kind. Share us out. Follow us on Facebook. Give us a like there. Really, really appreciate it. So, again, do me a great favor. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a like. Give us a share. Whatever have you. However you're watching, please give us a follow. Give us some love on the socials. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Uh, if in case you're just tuning in, we just broke down the IHRA going eighth mile. We talked some about their comeback season, but again, the eighth mile news that broke last night kind of overshadowing everything because that's a controversial move, right? And so we talked about what's the long-term outlook for the IHRA and what we hope is going to happen. With that, let's keep moving it along, and why don't we get to some hot lap headlines? Oh! I mean, that just sounds like a raver, doesn't it? I'm ready. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Credit to producer Peyton. She's on the ones and twos back there. A little under the weather this week, so we've got her off air, but she's back there, folks, and she's working hard. All right, let's talk about some Trackhouse Racing news. Trackhouse Racing is interested in attempting the double with Connor Zillage in future seasons. Um, Look, I think that's interesting, right? Unless the times move for the double, I don't see the point. I think it's too risky. Like, yes, it's a story. Yes, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Don't I know? I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody, but uh, unless you have unless you have the times adjust, it's too tight a window. The month of May brings the rain. I wouldn't risk it if I was Trackhouse, Connors Village. Yes, it's cool. They're not talking about this season, but they're talking about the future seasons. Kind of after he gets his feet wet in the Cup Series. Of course, he's going to the Cup Series for Trackhouse next season after just coming up just a whisker short of the Xfinity Series Championship for Junior Motorsports. But I don't. I would not. If I'm any team, why would you want to do the double? Why? Why? We saw the mess that was for 2 straight years with Kyle Larson. We saw the absolute mess. So until the times were to change, the start times, I mean, I don't know the point. I don't have a clue of the point. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it's prestigious, but it puts you in such a bind. It's stressful. It's uncomfortable. It's a whirlwind of emotions. If I was Trackhouse, I'd pump the brakes. That's just me. Speaking of Trackhouse, Zillage is going to run the 88 next season. SVG is going to move to the 97, and Chastain will stay in the 1. Now, if you're keeping score at home, and we hope that you are, SVG, of course, ran the 88 for Trackhouse this season. Daniel Suarez was in the 99. He's going to Spire. Now, Ross Chastain was in the 1. He will remain in the 1. SVG, the number 97 means a lot to him, clearly, if you saw their videos on social media. So that's cool. I personally, though, hot take, I know a bah humbug, Scrooge over here, call me Ebenezer. Why didn't you just make it 97 last year? A lot of people bought SVG merch. I didn't, but I know a lot of people that did. and now that merch is kind of out of date already. That merch is hitting the vintage category already. I just don't understand why you're going to have a guy run a number for one season, and then Connor Zilic comes up, and we're gonna move him out of that. I mean, I that makes sense to me. I'm not trying to knock Trackhouse. I just don't think it's great marketing. I think it's unfair to your fans because people like to keep up with the Joneses. That's the reality of life. And so if you're a diehard SVG fan and maybe you spent too much money on SVG 88 t-shirts, guess what? Those don't quite have the appeal they once did because now he's in the 97. Just my take. Uh, I think this is kind of odd. I'm not again. Clearly, the 97 means a lot to SVG, and that's cool. My complaint is why wasn't he in the 97 the whole time? Why? It makes very little sense to me. Very little sense to me. I don't, I don't know why Connor Zilic couldn't have been in the 99. I don't, no disrespect to Daniel Suarez, but is has he been that successful in that number that's worth rebranding and doing the whole deal and getting everybody's numbers again and all that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And here's a hot take. It's time to admit that Suarez just ain't it. It's time to admit that. He's had opportunity after opportunity. Not all of them have been great. I get it. I'm sure the folks at Gaunt Brothers Racing was working hard, but it wasn't a great sell for him. And so I just Dan Suarez, I don't know. I don't know about him. I don't know. I I want to believe he'll do well at Spire. He's a likable guy. He's a likable young man. But I, I'm starting to really have my doubts. Starting to really have my doubts. Freddie's saying Connor Zilla should be driving the 48 car for Hendrick. That's hot. That's hot, Freddie. That's a hot take because Bowman for all his peccadillos, he brings sponsorship, right? Ally clearly has some. I know that was originally a Jimmy Johnson sponsor, but let's be real, Freddie. Clearly they like him. Clearly they like him. You know, when you talk about Hendrick, let's talk about Hendrick. Corey Day is going to run full time for Hendrick Motorsports in the 2026 O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Does that mean he's the next guy in line? Is he the prodigal son? You know, every 5 or so years we see Mr. H and now Jeff Gordon kind of hand pick a couple of proteges, and it almost always does well. William Byron, Chase Elliott, it's done well. Alex Bowman, it's done well. I know that Alex Bowman had many a run before getting to HMS, but clearly they, along with Dale Jr., had their hand on him, and they clearly believed in the talent 100%. Is Corey Day that next guy? Is he the guy that's going to put the pressure on Alex Bowman? Because, Freddie, I assume you're saying that because Alex Bowman doesn't win enough compared to the other three. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Which is surprising because I think Alex Bowman is got all the talent in the world. I know some say he's a hack. When I say some, I mean I know a guy, Denny Hamlin. But you're right; he hasn't won a whole lot. Is Corey Day going to be the guy that puts the pressure on Alex Bowman? Obviously, that is way too soon to tell. There's a lot of racing to be done. There's a lot of racing to be done. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I think it's possible that he does because I think this is a huge step, and I don't think Mr. H and Jeff Gordon take this step if they don't have full faith in Day to get it done and maybe be that guy. And maybe that lights the fire under Bowman. We shall see. We shall see. That's just my opinion, my take. Corey Day might be the guy that finally kind of make the seat hot for Bowman. Now maybe Bowman comes out and wins 5 races. Maybe he wins Daytona and dominates. I don't have a clue. Maybe he wins the Clash, Daytona, and Atlanta. And then guess what? We can quiet all this talk down. But so far, except for once in a blue moon, it hasn't been there for Bowman. And so you wonder if Corey Day is not that guy. Rockingham Dragway is set to host an NHRA national event in 2026. How cool is this, folks? There was one mystery spot on the schedule for the 75th anniversary season of the NHRA, and Rockingham Dragway going to host it. I think that is just incredible. Look, you talk about an area that just loves racing. It's right there. It's right there, and so really cool to see. Really exciting stuff, and hopefully they continue to. Anytime you're hosting your first national event, there's a lot of question marks of how and logistics and all those sort of things. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but hopefully it's on the schedule for years to come. Um, AJ Allmendinger is competing in the 2026 Rolex 24 with the fine folks at Meyer Shank Racing. Not his first uh, Rolex 24 by any stretch. Rolex 24 Daytona is really, in my world, so some say it's the Chili Bowl. I got to disagree. In my world, the kickoff to the 2026 motorsports season is the Rolex 24 Daytona. So cool to see AJ Allmendinger competing in it. We'll see how he does. And then finally, and I want to spend a few minutes on this, NASCAR announced the start times for all races in all 3 series. And guess what? They're not changing their tune. They're not changing the tune. Most of them are the 3:30 variety. I believe the Daytona 500 is scheduled to start about 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I went through and I looked at the schedule and I went, y'all are just begging for rain because it's well known when is it most likely to rain. Oh, about that mid afternoon, right around the time those races always start. And if you're trying to end a drought, put a motorsports race in this area, and then it'll probably end the drought. So I just, man, I wish they'd back them up a little bit. I get it. The West Coasters don't want to have to get up and roll right out of bed and turn the TV on, and I respect it. You don't want to do bacon and eggs in NASCAR. I get it. I really do. I wouldn't necessarily be thrilled about it all the time either. But it wasn't that long ago the races started at, I don't know, 12, 1 o'clock. Now in the you go way back, they used to start at 11 a.m. sometimes. You go way back to the King's Day. But I don't know. I feel like every race should start around 2. I think that's pretty fair. 3:30, 3:30 just seem, and I get it's a ratings driven business when you're paying that kind of money for everything. I know that money makes the world go around. I get it. Money makes the world go around. Bacon, eggs, and NASCAR. That sounds okay to me too. Ain't nothing wrong with a little bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, and and a little bit of NASCAR. And I just think that would be just doggone wonderful. Uh, but a lot of the West Coasters, Freddie, they go, I can't do it. Can't open my eyes. And I'm not saying it's not early. Look, I like to sleep. I like to sleep, ladies and gentlemen. I enjoy a good sleep. I like to nap. I like to sleep. I'm not judging. No judgment here. Judgment free zone right here on the Racing Angle. But if I knew the race was starting at 11, we'll be up by 10. If you knew the race was starting, why wouldn't you get up? Now, I know some would say the church crowd. No, and hey, Lord knows that's more important than NASCAR. But uh, it wasn't that long ago where you could have some races at 2:30 instead of it's always 3:30. If you go through and look at most of the schedule, it's 3:30, and that again that is just begging for rain. That is just begging for rain. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Hopefully, I think we had a good weather year this year. We really did. We really did. And so hopefully we get lucky again. But when I saw those start times, I went, I am nervous. I am extremely nervous. I got to tell you. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take our next break, and we come back. We're going to talk some checkered thoughts. Doug Coletta closing in on it would take a hell of a circumstance for him to not win the championship in Top Fuel this weekend in NHRA. So we're going to break down some of his quotes, some of his thoughts, and we're going to see how all that's shaking out. Because again, the NHRA runs their final race of the season this weekend. Going to be a great event out at the In and Out Dragway. Going to be a lot of fun. So when we come back, we're going to break down some checkered thoughts, and we're going to focus on Doug Coletta, and then we've got our lap ahead, which again is going to be focused on the NHRA, and of course we've got Red Flag Rants, and I've got some thoughts on the NHRA's TV deal, and yeah, I'm gonna let you have it. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back in just a jiffy, about 2 minutes, and when we come back, we'll get into checkered thoughts. All right, we're back here on the Racing Angle. I'm your host, Logan Morrison. Again, we want to remind you, do me a great favor. Hit that subscribe button if you'd be so kind. We'd really appreciate it. Give us a like, give us a share as we try to grow this thing from the ground up and give you some great content, or at least some entertaining content if it's not great. So with that, do me a great favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. So I'm getting some word from producer Peyton that there's some breaking news we should touch on. Give me just a second on that front. We'll see if that's the case. Lots of things happening. Lots of things happening. So we'll see what happens. What's the word? Chris Powers has been penalized in the IHRA. Man, he just won the Mountain Motor Pro Stock category from the weekend, and he had a great season. So that's disappointing. That's disappointing. That's disappointing. Uh, sure, come on in, producer Peyton, and break the news for us.
Hello. I am sorry for my appearance and the lighting and everything. I did not plan on this. I am sick. But as of 12 minutes ago now, the IHRA posted on Facebook that there is breaking news that Chris Powers and Powers Extreme Motorsports have been penalized. Um, they were pretty vague in what they did wrong, although um, people are speculating it's because of his interview afterwards. He used some pretty rough vocabulary and language. Um, they said in their statement that participants at IHRA events are expected at all times to conduct themselves in a professional and non disruptive manner consistent with good sportsmanship and IHRA's role as a family oriented sports organization. All events must remain suitable for attendance by the general public and, when televised, appropriate for unrestricted public viewing. And the penalty section says the violation carries a maximum penalty of a 1 year suspension or $100,000 fine.
Oof, oofa, oofa.
And they give him 30 days to appeal.
30 days to appeal. That is not the news you're wanting to hear Chris Powers right before the holiday. That is not it right
But
there.
again, they did not say in the post what he did, so a lot of people in the comments are confused if they didn't, watch and see what happened. Um, and again, there's just speculation. Um, was it because of his interview? Was it not because of his interview? Did he do something else? Nobody knows because they didn't really say what happened.
I mean, 100K. That is not. If that is because it's that or a 1 year. Because I just pulled it up while you were reading to us there, producer Peyton. And 100K or a 1 year. I mean that or a 1 year suspension. Both of those. I mean, you talk about either one is awful. $100,000. The whole reason this thing is supposed to exist is to be cheaper. And so $100,000 for someone like Chris Powers, or someone like you, someone like me, someone like most everybody, except maybe John Force, is a humongous, life changing amount of money. And so that is huge breaking news. Again, especially when you consider the fact he's had a great season in Mountain Motor Pro Stock. We've seen it, and we weren't there this weekend, but we know he won Mountain Motor Pro Stock category. Uh, and just I need more details. I want the tea, as I know you do. But man, that is wow. Because think about it, if he doesn't have the money to pay the fine or doesn't want to pay the fine, or if he doesn't win the appeal, you're talking about 2026 being a no go for Chris Powers in the IHRA after he just had a great season in the Mountain Motor Pro Stock category, one of the categories that the IHRA originally is best known for. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. Man, I'm looking at the statement right now, and um, again, does give him the right to appeal. Chris Powers and Powers Extreme Motorsports have the absolute right to appeal the suspension and or fine within 30 days from the date of service Appeal must be submitted in writing to the IHRA board of directors, and then it goes on to leave the email there. Man, um, their statement also says any participant who, in the sole and absolute judgment of the IHRA, is not honest or truthful in dealings with the association, including without limitation making a false statement or creating, submitting, or posting false writings or documents, including on social media, or who otherwise violates IHRA rules, regulations, or agreements, shall be deemed in violation of IHRA's participant conduct policy. Now, I can't speak to what it's like to be a driver. However, we are credentialed IHRA media members, and they're very clear about, or I shouldn't say very clear. They're very much a stickler about certain things, and it's been made clear to us. And again, totally different thing being a media member and a driver. I get that. I'm not trying to pretend otherwise, but the IHRA is pretty lenient in a lot of ways. But there's a couple of bullet point things that if you do this, see you. So that is just huge, huge news. Uh, Man. Well, producer Peyton, let's. What do you say? We're going to do some checkered thoughts, and then we're going to work our way out of here because we're running out of time because of this huge breaking news. Any final thoughts before you go?
I'm just, as you said, eager to get the tea. I hope they're able to appeal and win because that's a lot of money for anybody. Um, and again, I don't know what they did because they didn't say. Um, but you know, it's a lot of consequence.
Yeah, that's deep, no doubt about it. So with that, we're going to try to move forward here, and we're going to do some checkered thoughts. All right. We're still reeling from that IHRA breaking news. Chris Powers penalized. We'll see what comes of that. Uh, Man, big time news. But Doug Coletta this weekend is pretty much guaranteed to win his second championship in the top fuel category, though it won't be official until the end of qualifying on Saturday. But once he makes that first attempt, the title will be his. Obviously, that 2023 championship, it went down to a winner take all final round against Leah Pruitt, who is coming back in 2026, by the way. And so we'll see how all that shakes out. But I wanted to get to some quotes here. Doug says it's hard to believe that we managed to not drag it into the last round of the last race. The presumptive 2025 Top Fuel champ said, "It feels really good. I'm definitely proud of my guys to make it all happen for sure. We just had to qualify this weekend, so we can definitely manage that. It's a huge relief. It means a lot to Connie. Of course, that's in reference to team owner Connie Coletta. Me and everybody at Coletta Motorsports were very grateful. All right, so let's talk there. Yeah, think about the relief it is, folks. That I mean, assuming you can put down a qualifying run, and crazy things have happened, but you can probably put down a qualifying run. Think about the stress-free weekend that Doug Coletta's having. I mean, think about how it's easy like Sunday morning, right? And so good for him, and uh, good for Connie. You know, he's still around, still very directly involved. The bounty hunter will be a happy, happy man because that's what he wants, right? He wants cash and championships. He doesn't make any bones about it. That's why his name is the bounty hunter. So no, great for him. You know, second championship for Doug Coletta, an incredible season. And Doug Coletta, for the record, if you've covered him in the press room, you know this. If you've seen him out and about at the event, you know this. Very humble, very very humble. He's always giving credit to the guys, but that guy's got the proverbial killer instinct. You know, he's an incredible competitor, and he finished second last year in the standings. He's got the championship 2023 where he defeated Leah Pruitt. He's an incredible competitor for this sport, and really, he's going to go down as one of the best to ever do it in the top fuel category. And he's a top notch guy as well. He said that it's gratifying. He always hoped he'd be able to tie his cousin Scott with the number of championships he has, and there's plenty of people who have won this twice. To be one of the guys that's won it twice with Alan Johnson as the crew chief is really special for sure. Yeah, I mean, think about the great list of names that have multi-time champions in Top Fuel. This is absolutely historic, but Doug deserves it, and for him to tie Scott, I'm sure it's an emotional moment for the whole family, for Connie Coletta, for Doug, for the entire team. I mean, I just but great for that entire organization. They know how to win. They know how to compete, and I mean, in this era of trying to make everything as close as you can make it, to have it pretty much locked up heading into the final weekend tells you what a great season that Doug and Co have had. And I mean, let's not forget that Sean Langton's had an incredible season too. So things are going well over at Coletta Motorsports right now. And Conrad is a happy man. But yeah, incredible to become a multi-time Top Fuel champion. Uh, he'll come back shooting for three next year. Just incredible stuff. With that, let's look ahead. Let's talk just a little bit about it. To the lap ahead, we got the NHRA finals in Pomona, and again, we're coming down to it, nitty gritty. And I don't mean dirt band, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean the dirt band. You've got Austin Prock, you got Matt Hagan. Austin Prock looks like he's got it pretty good, but there's still a mathematical chance. Now, Dallas Glenn versus Greg Anderson in the pro stock category. Remember, Greg Anderson beat Dallas Glenn last year at this event to lock up his sixth championship in pro stock. And then you got Gage Herrera versus Richard Gatson in pro stock motorcycle. This is an incredible event. But there is one major problem, and that's what's going to lead us to our red flag rant. All right, I just said we've got a championship weekend coming up. And you know what this makes me think of, makes me realize? The NHRA needs a better TV deal. There's a lot of rumors of what's going to happen. Are they going to stay with Fox? Are they going to go to CW? Are they going to go somewhere else? I don't mean any disrespect to the fine folks at Fox Sports. I know they have buku amount of content to produce, to make happen. People pay good money, but the sport deserves better. The sport deserves better. Now, I know you can't necessarily air them all day, but I believe in my heart of hearts that you can air them better than you have all season, and you can air them better than you are on Friday and Saturday. And now Sunday is a 3-hour window. I think that's great. But that should be the standard. That should be the standard. And if Fox is not going to commit to giving that to be the standard, they need to go somewhere else that'll value the sport. That it isn't just a notch in the proverbial belt of Fox Sports. And again, I don't have anything against Fox Sports. I'm not trying to disrespect them. But the sport of drag racing deserves better. You have champions being decided, careers being defined, and every run in this era of the NHRA matters. Every single run, because points are always given out, and yet you have to wait hours to if you don't subscribe to NHRA.tv, which I highly recommend you should. But let's be honest, not everybody can afford to do that in this major streaming era where everything has got to be let's charge you here, let's charge you there. And I know a lot of it's nickel and dime and $5 and $10 a month. But have you ever heard of death by 1,000 cuts? Yeah, that happens to people's pocketbooks. And so, and the NHRA TV is expensive. Let's be real about it. It is. It's worth every penny. I want to stress that. But that's not an easy sell to people that are trying to get by paycheck to paycheck. That's a lot of extra money. And so if you don't have that, and if you can't afford that, and you love the sport of drag racing, NHRA has got to find a way to get a better deal. And if Fox won't give it to them, I don't know how much money they're making or any of that sort of thing. It's not my business. It's above my pay grade. But as a paying customer, The paying customers deserve better. And I don't mean just the ones that are going to enter the grandstands this weekend. I mean the fans all over the world that love and support this sport and keep it going. They absolutely have to find a better way to have entire coverage for the whole season. Again, I get you're not going to be able to air 12-hour days. I respect that. I do. I I know. But the haphazard way that the TV coverage for NHRA is thrown together time and time again just says Fox doesn't care. Just says Fox doesn't care. Yeah, they throw them a bone and have the NFL be a lead in, get a big rating. Woohoo. Great. Does that absolve the 95% part of the season that it's like watching it on C-SPAN? I just don't get it. The NHRA deserves better, drag racing deserves better, and if Fox isn't going to do it, then they need to sever that relationship no matter the financial cost. Because the fans deserve better, the sport deserves better, we all deserve better because there's great racing week in, week out. We should not just pay extra attention somewhat to the finals on Sunday. It doesn't cut it. There is great stories to tell every single week, every single race, every single run. And this era of NHRA TV coverage doesn't really sell the sport the way it deserves to be sold. And so they need a better TV deal. Fox should do better. And if they're not going to do better, I hope they find better. With that, that's been this week's Red Flag Rant. And with that, it's about time for the final lap. All right, we've had a lot of fun here. We've broke down a lot of drag racing. We've talked some NASCAR. We've done it all. With that, I want to thank you for tuning in. Remember to please subscribe for me. Hit that like button. Share it out for me. We'd greatly appreciate it. Keep it tuned to our socials. We're posting reels. We're gonna get back to posting news here in the next week or two. Producer Peyton and I are working that out as we speak. And so thank you, Producer Peyton, for making this happen and working hard. Thank you again to Kevin Rao for your backing and support of this project. And thank you, Freddie, and thank you, anybody else that ever listens to this. Thank you for tuning in because that's the point of it, right? Is to hopefully give a voice to the average fan because that's what I am. I might go cover races, but I'm always going to be a fan, and that's the way I want to stay. And so hopefully I give a voice to that segment of people. Anywho, with that, we'll be back next week, and then we're going to take a week after off. But next week, we got a lot to talk about. We'll get closer to the Rolex 24. We'll break down the NHRA results, and we'll break down whatever else breaking news might happen. Yes, Freddie NWO for life, my friend. And until next week, we'll see you at the next track.